9:28 a.m. and we're very pleased to say that we have the president of Action SA on the line, and that, of course, is Herman Mashaba. Unfortunately, our previous interview couldn't go ahead with Miriam Mia because not only are we having network problems, but she has load shedding on her side, and that just complicated and exacerbated the situation regarding the feed. But it seems as if we have a stable line now with the president of Action SA, and that, of course, is Herman Mashaba. The all important question, we do know what happened last week in Bree Street, Johannesburg. Absolute mayhem, disaster, and we in Johannesburg still, wait with dread, wondering what next for us regarding the infrastructure that is crumbling. So, the all important question then to ask is, was the Johannesburg CBD and other areas in and around Gauteng an explosion that was predicted? And were we just not prepared for it? And why were we not prepared for it? Because people like Herman Mashaba has actually tried to engage with national government, asking them to look into these issues, because he, back a couple of years ago, when he was obviously the mayor of Johannesburg, said that this was a disaster waiting to happen. Let's hear from Herman himself. A very good morning to you. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Julian. Good morning to the listeners, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I think this accident was bound to happen, and I think we've got to be grateful to God that the extent of the damage wasn't as bad as one would expect. And I think we are still sitting on a very, very dangerous terrain. And I believe all of us South Africans are complicit in this matter, because when I raised this matter already in 2017, 2018, things have gotten worse in terms of what is happening in our country with this Zamazamas. They've intensified their efforts with complete impunity. But making matters worse are two other factors that I personally believe are putting our lives and our country at risk. We have slowed down on repairs and maintenance and building of new infrastructure. We are allowing thirdly, allowing criminal elements to daily strip our infrastructure. Anywhere where they see steel, it doesn't matter whether it's on the bridges, it's on electrical poles or whatever. And why people are getting away with this, only the ANC government can answer this, because the infrastructure of South Africa is under attack. I keep, from time to time, even now when I'm no longer a mayor, from time to time I question our parliament. Why are you not passing laws to punish those criminal elements who are destroying our infrastructure? Treat this as treason, because unfortunately South Africa is sitting on a time bomb. Remember in 2017-18 when I raised this matter, brought to my attention by Sasol and Transnet, where the Zamazamas are using very dangerous explosives that they don't know what they are doing next to gas and petrol pipes. And we're saying, you know what, if one day at FNB Stadium with 80,000, 90,000 people in the stadium, something happens, that tragedy would be something that the world will never forget. But has anything happened? Unfortunately, to date, I can confirm that the Department of Minerals and Energy, responsible for mining up to today, they've never even acknowledged receipt of my letter. My letters, not my letter.
Herman, there's the other issue. You talk about the FNB Stadium. You also go on to say that obviously companies such as Sasol and Transnet have approached you way back in 2018. and there's a petrol line, you say, close to the FNB Stadium. If that should blow up, not only the FNB Stadium and whoever possibly is in the stadium at that time, the surrounding areas, that
course,
is Riverlea, Bosmont,
heavily.
where we are currently talking to you from, Robertsham, all of the surrounding areas will be decimated, will be absolutely ashes, will it not? And yet the government is silent on this. What do you believe needs to be done to let them realize the gravity of the situation?
Julie, I think let us, as South Africans, start talking to each other as grown up people. Look, one thing for sure, if anybody expects ANC to solve this problem, then honestly, we've got energy to waste. My personal view, which some people might take it to be political, but we are dealing with a political issue here. I think, and I call on South Africans, the solution to save this country from complete destruction is the removal of ANC from government. So I'm sick and tired of writing letters, raising these issues in public platform when I live in a democratic country. My unapologetic view is mobilize South Africans. Let's remove ANC out of government before it is too late. Because for us to keep quiet and allow them to be in government, we are going to be complicit to what would really one day happen to us.
Absolutely. Okay, Johannesburg, as you and I know, used to be known as a world-class African city. Just drive through the CBD and it is an absolute shambles. It is nothing but slum now. How do we as civil society, number one, vote the NC out of power? They're working very, very hard with smaller parties to try and ensure coalition government. God forbid that that does not, in fact, happen. How do we move forward then on this situation? How do we get civil society to rise up? Will they hear us?
Well, I think Julie, I'm doing my damn best. I'm doing my best on a daily basis. I spend 24 hours of my time, just a few hours of sleep. Everything is dedicated and devoted in making sure that we can get the youth of our country, who are the biggest casualties of ANC government, to please register with the IEC. We are helping them to register every day. So I'm talking to you. I've got teams all over the country doing their best in ensuring that the 2024 elections, get one of the biggest voter turnout, so that we can democratically remove this government, bring in a government that can be accountable to the people of South Africa, to make sure that there's a rule of law. When someone commit crime, regardless of the size of the crime, there has to really be consequences. Can you believe it, Julia? This morning I heard on one of the radio stations, there's something I still need to respond to, where they're talking about some mining company in KZN found a creative solution to work with the Zamazama, someone who was a criminal who is now working with the mining houses to work with the Zamazamas. I can tell you this, for me, it's a beginning of the end of our mining industry. And it's not only going to affect the mining, it's going to affect criminal elements to understand that they can continue with this what we call construction mafia. We heard a few weeks ago one of the MECs in KwaZulu-Natal that we must negotiate with them. How do we negotiate with criminality? I can tell you that that mining house, for them to accept talking to the criminal elements, is because they are not getting the support of government. Government has got an obligation. If you want small term mining, what to do, create a conducive environment, but not to really be held ransom by criminal elements and you are forced to work with them. I think for me, that particular company that has accepted to work with the criminal elements, actually they are complicit to those. They are creating problems for the entire industry in South Africa, because then these criminals will then to go to every business, demand whatever protection, and I don't want to really live in a society like this. Honestly, it's not really worth it. We allow it with one, then we must allow it with the next. We'll end up every business paying with ransoms or whatever to criminal elements. I think it's totally unacceptable. If these businessmen thought, this mining companies thought they were doing this with good intentions, unfortunately, good intentions like this are unacceptable. For the MEC in KwaZulu Natal, that we must talk to the construction mafia, it is totally unacceptable. We can't be a country that is going to really be paying protection fees from criminal elements.
Herman, I think we're already a mafia state. Sad to say, we're already a mafia state, and everybody's colluding with the criminals. Everybody wants a piece of the pie. And you are so right when you say that people need to wake up and they need to start voting, and voting very intelligently. Otherwise, we can kiss South Africa goodbye, sadly. I want to come back to the illegal miners, to the Zamazamas. What do you believe is the answer to addressing that? Mentally exploited. They live in the most horrendous conditions. They exploited materially and otherwise. Something needs to be done to address that problem. We need to have strong minds and political will to come together to address this problem. How has it been? And I know we've had illegal mining in South America, for example. How was that addressed there? Can we replicate those type of models here in South Africa?
Well, I can tell you, Julie, I don't even need the experience from any country. I just really need to live in a country where there's a political will that if anybody breaks the laws of our country, there has to really be consequences, and serious consequences. But unfortunately, we are led, and I'm sorry to say this, but it's a fact, we are led by criminal enterprise themselves. Unfortunately, our government, whether they like it or not, it's a fact. 29 years of our democracy, a big percentage of it, this government, it's a criminal enterprise. We need to remove it, put in an accountable government. But for that government to be accountable, you need civil society that is educated to understand the power of democracy. People must learn to vote for people not because they look like them. They must vote for people for what they stand for. Stand for in terms of you vote them in on the basis of their promise. If they fail to deliver the next voting cycle, you remove them. Because the politicians all over the world, the successful democracies, are based on politicians knowing very well that the civil society, the voters, are not going to allow them to do as they please. But unfortunately, in our country and the rest of the African continent, after we attain our independence, we sit back and say politics is not for us. Then what happens? One country after the other, your country ends up being taken over by criminals or by dictators and create havoc. You know, I'm 63. In August, I'll be turning 64. There are certain most of the African countries got independence before I was even born. Where are they today? They go from one crisis after the other. Look at South Africa. We have every indicator. It's pointing us on the wrong direction. High unemployment, murder rate, the rape capital of the world, highest sustainable unemployment rate in the world. Our cities are being destroyed. Our lives are at risk. And what happens? people don't go out and vote. I don't understand this. So, unfortunately, IEC and the NC government are not going to educate, particularly black people, to understand the power of their democracy. When you can have 47% voter turnout in a country with such massive problems, country like this, if our people were educated who understood democracy, will be going out instead of every day burning tires and burning our clinics. We say we need quality education, we go and burn our libraries, the few libraries that we've got. So it's a question of people understanding democracy, and I think you and I, all of us, let us educate people around us. Those who are not voting, please go out, register to vote. Come 2024, let's put ANC in the dustbins of our industry and start a new chapter of our country's history.
What is also very problematic is, as you speak about voting, it just seems that our young people are so apathetic. It is very evident in exactly what you've said now. Whenever there's a protest action, whether it's a political party or protest action regarding service delivery, they go out protesting, but in the in the interim they then destroy infrastructure. We need to change the mindset of burning down schools, libraries, clinics, hospitals, etc., and sabotaging all of these places that are service providers, integral, absolutely integral service providers. What is happening to our young minds that are so warped that go out and do this type of destruction? Is it have they been bought over? Can they not think for themselves? Are they that desperate? We need to construct a very, very simple but very strategic education campaign at our young people. If we can win them over, we can win the elections. When I say we, I'm talking collectively, the smaller parties who want to do good by South Africa. And how do you believe that plan should be looking?
Well, I think, for us as Action SA, we, on the 16th of June this year, we use June 16 as a day to wake our youth up. We started a program of a massive voter education. We're running it all over the country on a daily basis. From time to time, we'll have big events and so forth. And we hope other parties, we hope civil society or listeners out there, let them ensure that people around them and themselves are registered to vote. Let's go out in our big numbers to vote the ANC out. That's the only way we can save this country. Instead of, I find it really difficult when a community has got a problem with government that has failed them for 29 years. They voted into power, or they don't go and vote. And then they've got an issue. They close the streets. With this high unemployment, they block their own people who are working from going to work. I just cannot really understand the logic, and I sympathize with their issues. But the thing is, how you solve this problem, it's another. You cannot, with this high unemployment, with the poverty level, when you've got problems with the government that you've elected, or you've decided not to go and vote, you close the streets and block people from going to work and provide for their families. You're now subjecting them to more poverty, your own people. The very same politicians, they are driving in Bentleys. They live a life of kings, and those are the people that you should really be voting out. You don't even have to go and burn down their houses and their cars. You just vote them out of power, because that's all they know. So I think education is important. Take this message to the communities, to say, no, in a democratic dispensation, this is how you solve the problem. You solve the problem by making sure that your vote is not a secret. Let the politicians know, like Herman Mashaba, that ANC will never see my vote. I'm going to vote for a particular party, but My vote for that particular party is not a guarantee. It is guaranteed, it is conditional upon them delivering. In the event they don't deliver, I'm going to vote them out. This whole, what I would really call nonsense of people being told that your vote is a secret, that is what has killed our continent. That is what has killed our country. Let politicians really know that your vote is not a secret. You are going to vote them out, and in numbers. Go out as ordinary South Africans. Don't underestimate your power to convince 210 people, because those 210 people will go and get the message out there. We 9-10 months into the elections. This is a very critical moment for this country, because come 2024, we've still got an ANC government in power. They can only get worse. We will end up actually with in a situation like Zimbabwe, where
Absolutely.
we've got to provide for everything ourselves. South Africa will be like a Sunday school picnic. The economy of South Africa will not sustain another 5 years of ANC government beyond 2024. That, for me,
What
I'm convinced about it.
what our young people should also understand, and this is another strong message that needs to go out to the schools and to the tertiary institutions, and this is a message targeted at our young people, and that is that the more they destroy infrastructure, there's just no money to fix the infrastructure because the tax base is very small and getting smaller. Lots of young professionals are immigrating. So, where are we going to get the money to fix this country? We are in a critical situation in South Africa, and you, as a political leader, needs to start getting those very strong messages out to our young people and make sure that they vote and they vote intelligently. We need to pull this country back from the brink of disaster. I'll give you the final say on this interview. Over to you.
No, thank you very much, Julie, and thank you to your listeners for giving me this platform. And I really urge South Africans, don't leave the future of your children to Herman Mashaba. Don't really leave it to an individual. Let's all take individual responsibility. You know, Julie, in late 2015, when I accepted to eventually leave my business and join politics, was because I was already sick and tired of having these discussions at the boardroom tables and dinner parties. And I felt, you know what, if not me, who? And I decided to throw the hat in my ring. Unfortunately, chose to work with the DA, only to discover that the DA is not prepared to provide the services to poor communities, and that created a fallout between the DA and I, because I did not join the politics to serve a particular audience. When you're in government, you provide services to everyone, more especially the marginalized one, and which the DSS is not their policy. They're not interested in providing services to poor communities. And that led to the DA talking to the ANC to have a motion of no confidence against me. My sin, being called an EFF mayor because they felt I'm taking their residents' money to provide services to people who don't vote for them. When you're in government, it's not about providing services to only those who vote for you. You provide services to everyone, because if you don't take care of the poor and the marginalized, you can never live in equitable society. Social justice for me is part and parcel of my DNA. I believe very strongly. I don't want to live side by side with poverty. I take it as my personal responsibility as a businessman. When I conduct my business, it is to make money, and once I've made the money, then I can go and spend it, some of it, if my family cannot make use of it all. But at the end of the day, really, I was born and raised in abject poverty, and I liberated myself through my own initiative, defied the apartheid government, and it is sad for me today, 29 years into my democracy, I'm now standing up against the people I thought I grew up thinking that these are liberators, only to find that, in fact, sometimes I feel they're worse than the apartheid regime, which is really very sad.
Finally, I have to ask this questions. If we had a scenario like Bree Street exploding like it did last week, lots of people were injured, one life was lost, etc. If this had happened in a first world country, by now government heads would have rolled already. Nobody thus far has been brought to account. What do you say to that?
Well, Julie, it goes even worse than that. If it's almost a week later, they don't even know what was the cause of this problem because the officials running the city, this cadre deployment has been a curse to this country. They don't even know what actually the cause is. In a civilized society, the entire government would have resigned. In this case, they are there. We don't even know where the mayor is today. We see last week we were under impression the city of Johannesburg is under administration because the premier all of a sudden took over, disregarding all the laws of the country because the city of Johannesburg is a legal entity. It is not part of the province. And now today we see only the city manager. We're not seeing the political office bearers. This project was supposed to, by law, supposed to be led by the mayor, obviously working side by side with the city manager and the officials. But today, the mayor is nowhere to really be seen. And for us, it's life as normal. That is how far this country has gone. But I think it is lack of political education and understanding of democracy. And we have to do everything possible to really get our people to wake up. 2024 is our last opportunity to save this country. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
I really dread to see ANC still in government come 2024. I don't know whether what to expect of the future of my grandchildren.
I agree with you 101%. It is our last chance in reclaiming and saving this country. Finally, I know I did say it was my final question, but you've made a comment and I agree with you 101%. It seems as if all the clowns that are running the city and the country are more interested in renaming our streets rather than fixing our infrastructure. Isn't it a crying shame that that's where their priorities lie?
My goodness, the Julie, that I remember when I was the mayor, I actually stopped renaming of streets and buildings. I said South Africa at this point in time needs a new infrastructure. Let's focus on rebuilding the current infrastructure, leave it as it is. Let's build new infrastructure. We need new clinics. We need new hospitals, universities, new streets. We can call them whatever name. But this renaming madness is total madness. Like right now in the city of Johannesburg, where every time I talk to my kids, they don't believe me when I tell them 30 years ago, so Johannesburg was one of the most modern cities in the world. They think the date you are met because the only thing they know about Johannesburg, it's a slum. They think,
Absolutely.
there's no way that human beings can destroy what you are telling us in 30 years. They can't believe it. And that is it. 30 years ago, I remember, Julie, I was the Carlton Center. I was one of the guests after Nelson Mandela got the victory. Before he was inaugurated, the ANC ran a party, invited some of us who were their supporters to the Carlton Ballroom. We had a party there to celebrate ANC's victory with Nelson Mandela. 10 years later, Carlton Center was closed. And we saw that city every single day. And these are the issues when I was the
Degrading.
mayor. I used to raise them with Premier Makura to say, but Premier, what happened to you guys? You've been here ever since. Please, can you work with us? Let's reclaim our city. Let's take back this hijacked building. Let's work with the private sector to redevelop them so that our people can live in proper accommodation. Our student community, Johannesburg, it's a hub of universities where our youth are looking for accommodation. I'm afraid not interested. Look at now what has happened. And it is happening, and it is still going to happen. Yesterday I was talking to a friend of mine. I said, well, I was being asked this question, whether this is an accident or not. I said, this is an accident bound to happen, and all of us South Africans are complicit. It is like sitting with a family member here in Johannesburg, supposed to drive to Durban. You allow them to finish a bottle of whiskey. And then afterwards, you go to the car, he gets into the car, drive to Durban. He might get there, but if he gets involved in an accident, you cannot say this was an accident because you've allowed this person to get into the car being drunk and knowing very well that this person is a danger to himself and the other people in the country. And for you to have allowed that person to get in that first car in the car in the first place, you are also complicit. And us as South Africans, let us accept complicity for allowing ourselves to be governed by a government that is drunk.
Herman Mashaba, that's where we're going to leave it. Undoubtedly, you and I are going to have lots more conversations leading up to the elections. And what I can say in closing is that all of our politicians are absolutely power drunk. And that is why we're in the situation that we're in right now. God bless. Thank you for being with us on the show. Love talking with you. Till the next time, as always, God bless.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
It is exactly 9:58 a.m. News and views right here on Salam Media. I do think that we have one more final interview. Hopefully, our network has stabilized. Let's see if we can connect up with Fayrouz Mohammed. Am I getting the nod of approval from my controller and my producer? Yes. So please don't go away. We're going to be talking with Fayrouz Mohammed.